Hello and welcome back to the DoneDeal YouTube channel. I'm David OC, and today on a very wet and cold day we're reviewing the all-new Kia Sorento. This is the plug-in hybrid version and it is very impressive. Now you can of course find these for sale on DoneDeal from our trusted dealer network around the country. Now my job today is to bring an independent review of the Kia Sorento, so let's take a look at the car and see what it's all about. On first impressions, the Sorento is gigantic. It screams America when it comes to sizes, and actually it makes it a difficult one on the market. I think its closest competitors are like a well-spec'd Tarraco or Kodiaq, maybe a Mercedes GLB, but then maybe it's really premium and it's against something like an X5 but at a cheaper price bracket. Prices do start at about 50,000 euros. This is the K4 with the higher spec, which we'll talk about shortly, and that's about 55,000. But anyway, as I was saying, look at the nice front grille there, it's really good. Along the side, it's nice and big. One of the standout features is this here, this little chrome section, and then from the rear, it looks fantastic. And in fact, I actually think these lights remind me a little bit of the Ford Mustang, and that is a good thing. Let's begin by talking about three of the really cool features on the Sorento, because it is riddled with impressive technology. So yesterday I had to buy a new Hoover. It was raining, my hands were full with this big box, and I was standing at the back trying to open the boot, trying to find the keys, and then magic happened. So basically, if you stand near the boot, wait a couple seconds, and the boot actually opens automatically. And what's more is you can actually adjust the height of the tailgate there. So if you're quite short, you can have it so it just opens to here. That is really cool. Number two is that the Sorento can come with blind spot monitoring. And I don't just mean in the mirrors with the red mark, but actually when you turn the indicator on, you get a little image of what's in your blind spot there on the left and right hand side, and it happens at all speeds. And number three is that the Sorento comes with Kia's 7-year or 150,000 kilometer warranty. That's what it's all about, buying with peace of mind and confidence. Had to escape that cold, wet, miserable day out there. But thankfully we've come in here, we've heated seats, we've a heated steering wheel, we've got the dual climate control set just so, and life is good again. And being honest, in here, it's exceptionally nice. It's really premium. And I remember the first generation Kia Sorento back in 2005, I think it was a little bit rough and ready, but in here, it is as good as any Mercedes, BMW or Audi, and I really mean that. The big screens are really nice. Now this is the K4, so there's two specs, there's a K3 and a K4. The K4 being the higher spec, you get a Bose 12 speaker surround sound system, a panoramic sunroof, that blind spot monitoring that we were talking about a minute ago. There is endless different upgrades with the K4, but it's well worth it, because in here for a 55 grand car, it really is very impressive. Now let's talk about storage. You've got door cards here, you've got two drink holders here, a big cubby hole there with a higher level if you want to just put something in nice and shallow. You've got a little hidden part here which has 3 USB points, which is very impressive, and wireless charging. And of course you've got a normal size glove box. So storage is really good. Now let's take a look at the infotainment system. First, must mention that there's a lot of buttons in here, and I quite like that. It may not be to everyone's take, but I do like the climate control is just easily adjustable here, and you have obviously separated, so if your passenger wants a different temperature to you, you can of course separate that. Now up here, you've got a large 10.25 inch screen, and it's really good. It has all your information. One big thing I like about the inbuilt sat-nav in it is that just like this, it will tell you where your nearest charging station is, and that's because we're in the PHEV one. So at the moment we've got 11% battery, and we can of course then drive to that station fully on electric, charge up, and on we go. As far as everything else goes, the radio, the nav, the media, everything is pretty intuitive. Now, one of the things, I'm not sure if you can hear, but it's quite loud for me, is the sounds of nature. So you've got a cool little option here to put different features and different noises to set the atmosphere just so. It's the calm ocean waves right now. Now, of course, you do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Unlike something like a new Kodiaq, it is still wired. However, once you connect it, if I turn that noise off, it's quite loud, you've got all your usual Google Maps, you can connect your Spotify, and it's very intuitive. Now over here, you've got a 12-inch digital display. Again, fantastic. You've got all your different information, things you need to know there. This is also where you'll see your cruise control, your lane assist, which we'll talk about later when we're driving it. But again, that front screen, it's very, very impressive, and it just feels really good. And I think the big screens kind of reminds you of being in something really nice, like a Range Rover. In the rear of the Sorento, it is actually very impressive. Obviously, there is tons of space, but it has some really nice touches. Like at a press of a button, the seat rolls forward and someone can go into the third row. But it's also fully adjustable in many, many ways. In fact, it actually even reclines, which is quite nice. Now, let's talk about other features in here. So first of all, it's got a strange leather. It's leather here, but over here there's some small holes, and I would worry children, if they're playing in the car, if they're spilling stuff, might be difficult to clean, but it should be okay. There is also ice points that are very easily accessible. Now, there is tons of feature. If you've got kids and they're worried about charging their smartphones and their tablets, do not worry, because there is USB point here, 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 12-volt socket. They're literally everywhere. There's even heated seats in this K4 version in the rear, which is really, really cool. Big cup holders, and there's even a bit of padding and storage down here. Now, in terms of comfort, well, it's really good. Knee room, it's plentiful. You've got a nice armrest here, you can have a drink. You've got a shade here where you can block out the haters, although you do have to have some skills to attach it. And headroom's pretty good, but I'm not the tallest person in the world. The panoramic sunroof eats into it. It does in every single car, but I would still advise getting it because it does brighten things up. And of course, being the Sorento, there's a 7th row. Dave, what's it like back there? Yeah, it's actually pretty decent, okay room, and there's loads of cool features you should show them. Leave the car reviews to me. Anyway, let's go check out the boot. Now the boot, so I always go to open it here, but you realise the button's hidden under here. But most importantly, you don't actually need to worry about that. As long as the key is in your pocket, it will open automatically. Now, in terms of boot space, if the 3rd row is down, it is gigantic. You've got this cover here, so if you've got personal items you don't want people seeing, you can hide them. Although if I owned it, I think I'd keep that at home in the shed. Now, in terms of cool features, you've got your usual hooks to tie things down. You've got your cables. Now, really cool one about this is it actually Velcros down, so it shouldn't slide around the boot. And of course, as we mentioned, there is 3 rows. So if you decide to pull this seat up, you enable an extra 6th or 7th passenger, and they have cool little features like air conditioning and USB points. Another really cool feature, if we actually pop this back down, is when you want to lower that middle layer seats and you want to increase that boot space to nearly 2,000 litres, you can do it at a press of a button, which is really, really cool. So you don't have to run around to the side like a madman or a mad woman when you've got kids hanging out of you in all different shapes and sizes. Now, when it comes to driving the Sorento, well, that's where this gets really interesting, and we're going to talk about it being the plug-in hybrid. But the first thing I want to note is the way you put it into gear. It reminds me of a Jaguar XF. That is a very good thing, and it says a lot for the Sorento. Now, as you pull off, it's really smooth to drive. The suspension around the bends, it's all very comfortable. It's all very SUV-esque. It is quite stiff. I'm going to say it's not, the dampening isn't quite as much as some other SUVs, but it is all in all really, really good. Now, let's talk about engines. So depending on your driving style, there's multiple different engine options, one of which is a 2.2 litre diesel. It's got about 200 brake horsepower. That's a great one if you're doing some motorway mile munching. You're doing Dublin to Belfast, Dublin to Cork, Cork to Longford, wherever it might be. It's a great one for the long drives. However, this one is the PHEV. It's got a 1.6 litre engine that's got 177 horsepower, but it's also got a 13.8 kilowatt hour battery. Now, where that becomes interesting is they pair together, obviously, so you're getting a large amount of power, 261 brake horsepower, but you're also able to drive in pure electric mode. Now, your estimated range is about 55 kilometers on that, so you're not going to go miles, but you can probably do the school run or make your way to the office on a single charge, and you can actually select it to stay permanently in EV mode. One other really cool feature about a hybrid is you don't have to just plug it in. This will actually charge itself. So right now I'm using the petrol powered engine, and it's not only driving me forward, but it's also charging up that electric battery, which is really, really cool. Now, I actually think PHEV plug-in hybrids, currently, they're the best option. That's where we're at in 2021, in my opinion. In the real world, it means people who live in apartments can have them. It means people who live in houses, people who do motorway mileage and city driving. It is kind of the best of both worlds. Now, obviously, full electric cars are great if you live in the city, you have a house, you can plug it in, it's fantastic. But I think right now, for the masses, plug-in hybrid is where we're at. And why not the Kia Sorento? It's really, really nice to drive. And another thing definitely worth mentioning is the driving aid. So obviously we spoke about the blind spot monitoring, which again, it's just phenomenal. And it's just one of those things you get in your car, you have a passenger in your car, and they hop in and they're like, oh, that's really cool. And those kind of gimmicks are what makes a car have character and what you really enjoy about a car. But it also has things like adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, and the Kia lane keeping assist, it's far superior than anything from its German rivals, actually. And all in all, it's brilliant. I have to say, I'm really enjoying driving it. I wish it wasn't so wet, and I wish I could maybe take it on a bit of a road trip and really experiment with it, but overall, I have to say it's fantastic, and it is definitely fit for the purpose intended. One big thing when driving a hybrid is how does the electric motor pair with the petrol engine or the diesel engine? And being honest, it's very, very good. It's quite seamless. The transition between the two is very good in hybrid mode. What I will say is sometimes it's a little bit laggy. Let's say, for example, you want to use the full 261 brake horsepower and you're in hybrid mode and you go to put your foot down. It can sometimes take a second because it's almost like, oh, I need to turn on the petrol engine and then I need to drop a gear and then I'll get going. But it really is good, and there's plenty of power. Should you take this on a weekend away and you're on a country road and you need to overtake a truck or a tractor, there's more than enough there. And last but not least, let's talk about the fact that this is one of the biggest SUVs on Irish roads. It really is. But it's a real SUV, a true one. Now, yes, you can get the diesel version with front wheel drive only, but this, the plug-in hybrid, it is the real deal. It's all-wheel drive, and I love to see that. Now, you do have different modes down here. You've got your eco, your sport, your smart driving, but you've also got snow, mud, and sand. So you can actually activate that all-wheel drive system and take it off-road. The ground clearance is acceptable. I mean, no, you're not going to be driving up volcanoes, but if you live in the Dublin mountains and it's a snowy day, you will be able to get to work. Well, there you have it. That is DoneDeal's rainy day review of the Kia Sorento. And honestly, I think it kind of sits in the market in a division of its own. And I'd like to know from you, would you prefer to have a really high spec Skoda Kodiaq or a Tarraco? Or would you prefer something like this, a little bit unusual, but actually a great option? And you do get a lot for your money, really. And it's probably the biggest 7-seater option available for under 80,000 euros. Anyway, thank you so much for watching today's video. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope you've learned something from it. If you have any questions, please let us know in the comments below and we will do our best to reply. And of course, if you are looking to buy a car in Ireland, hit the link up there and buy from over 1,000 trusted dealers nationwide. Thanks so much for watching and we'll see you in the next video.